Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast. I'm Patrick Miller alongside Wayne Pua. Tonight we're going to cover a range of different topics. We're going to touch on, some hot sports documentaries that have come out recently. Kind of where they rank in, the ones we've seen over the last few years or so. We'll also touch on, some NBA news, also some Major League Baseball news as well, and that'll be our show. Just wanted to say thanks for everybody who's currently following us, who's liking any of our content, commenting in any way, subscribing is huge for us. Looks like at least on Instagram, we're north of 300 followers at this point. So just trying to build a genuine following here, and vice versa. I'd say that, we're also interested in finding, sports podcasts, sports personalities that, kind of line up with our views or maybe just are entertaining in any sense. So, hopefully you all are enjoying this. And without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Wayne to talk about the first documentary on our list.
Oh my God. So the Manti Te'o documentary on Netflix, I think it just dropped last week. But man, oh man, I think both you and I, Pat, were we were in high school, later high school or no, we were in college or just graduated, I think, because it was 2013 or something. But yeah, we were young. I think we're just looking at this Manti Te'o guy, right? And at least I remember seeing him, Notre Dame. He was from Indiana, or he played in Indiana, so we're familiar, being some Chicago people, seeing him and hearing about him. I watched a couple of his games. They were awesome. They're awesome highlights, especially senior year. I think he had 7 interceptions as a linebacker. And I think he had so much accolades coming his way. Was was in the Heisman race, and then all of a sudden, you hear grandma passed away. Also, then his girlfriend passed away, and then you hear again. I remember when on Twitter when this whole Deadspin article dropped about Manti Te'o. Having a fake girlfriend and having this whole thing being a hoax. I remember that dropped, and that was just this was one of the first instances where everybody was just going on the internet and kind of playing an internet sleuth, if you will. Everybody was developing theories, was he gay? Was he, all these things, now that, in 2022 is a little bit okay, let's relax, guys, and everything. But then it was definitely a very controversial thing for a lot of people to talk about. His draft value dropped. He was definitely projected as a first rounder and then went into the second, which, I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot of a big difference for, us normal folk where we're just thinking about draft positions. But, you're talking about potentially millions of dollars. First rounders in the NFL, a lot of them have guaranteed contracts. So, that is a big drop in that sense from his career earnings. And yeah, you're only going to earn so much as an NFL player, over the course of a 10-year career, if you even hit that. So yeah, his career definitely blundered, and the documentary really did a really excellent job, I think, of describing, the mental health aspect and its impact on him, and then what internet trolls, all the memes and everything that we do, this actually affects actual people. Online bullying is a thing, and we all talk about things about the metaverse and how these abstract things on the internet or the digital world can't have effect in the real world, right? But it can, and it has in this sense. And he fell in love essentially online with a person, or at least a figure of an idea of what he would see as a mate or an ideal spouse. And it really just shows this whole idea of what real love is, but then also, yeah, this digital world, this other world that we're still trying to understand as people, I feel has an impact in our real life and our real emotions. He had anxiety. I think he said the first extreme anxiety, his first 3 years playing, and then eventually sought psychiatric help. And man, it just had a great impact on him. And that speech at the end, man, I teared up when I heard that. I felt bad for him, and I feel like, this guy, he's not a bad guy. It looks like by any measure, he's not a bad guy. Just, made a dumb decision here and everything. And he was the victim. And I think it's hard for people to realize that or say that. And Pat, yeah, would love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, well, what did you think about everything there?
Yeah, completely blown away. Thought the documentary was really, really well made. Maybe one of my favorite sports docs in recent memory. I mean, just from the fact that, hearing the story when we were probably around college ourselves, I didn't really understand the full picture. I think, I wasn't as, let's say, on the beat of college sports or even following Twitter like closely in that sense to kind of understand all the ins and outs of, his grandma dying on the same day as his girlfriend, what was actually happening with this account, who was on the other end, what was really going on. I think I more or less caught it in like the, mainstream news, type scenario or the ESPN coverage of it. And it's like, when you don't get all the facts, when you don't really know what's going on, you just immediately rush to judgment and think, oh, this guy's crazy. Like this guy had a phony, online girlfriend and then I actually also thought he was in on this whole scheme. Like he was doing it to make himself look, much better, get himself into the Heisman picture talk, potentially, raise his draft stock at the time. So it's kind of like, without all those facts and in so many different cases and so many different examples in our modern day society, it's just, I think we're very quick as a society to just completely, crush somebody, cancel them, shower them with harassment, abuse, memes, all this other stuff that kind of came down on Manti. And I will say, like going through it, going piece by piece through the documentary and like hearing his story and like observing him as a human and how he actually thinks about stuff. I mean, he does come off as incredibly naive. I will say that I think his upbringing had a lot to do with that. It's not his fault. I just think that, he grew up in a smaller society. I mean, I think he was very disciplined as a kid. You could tell that his dad had really high expectations on him and probably pushed him to no end, to no limits. And I think in a lot of ways he was shielded. And, I don't want to go, too deep into religion type talk, but, perhaps his, devotion to his religion and, his craft of football and to his family. Like, I think in a lot of ways he had blinders on, his outlook in life. I think that, because he had all the, sorts of successes on the football field, I think that was his world completely. And, I think for a normal person, and that's hard to say, like, who is a normal person, but I would just think that over a course of 3 years, it'd be really hard to like maintain a close relationship with somebody you've never really met. I could see it as like a pen pal thing if you were, just in need of somebody to talk to, but it kind of got to levels where maybe I would never fully understand. Like I could never have an exclusive pen pal who's called my girlfriend and then, just kind of get, twisted through all these loops and turns. And like, she's dying one day, she's got leukemia the next day. She comes back from the dead. She's sending pictures of, a sign and like, everything he asked for. And like, now he did get that validation through his friends that this person like was known somehow, some way, or people at least had communicated with her in some fashion. But it was like, man, I don't know. Like there were so many twists and turns and, I don't want to drop any blame on him in this like situation because I think, Renaya Tuiasosopo was ultimately like the catfish in the situation, was kind of like really driving a lot of this abuse and playing some really like ugly mind games with this guy. I mean, it really like destroyed this guy. Not only then, but like you said, like over the next 10 plus years, I mean, this followed him everywhere he went and it crushed his draft stock. I mean, they were saying like teams wanted to avoid him. They didn't think he was capable of being a leader. They didn't think they wanted to, grab a guy with this much baggage, following him. Like, who is this guy? Like, he must be insane is kind of, I guess, my interpretation of what front offices were talking about then. But no, you could tell he's definitely matured over the years and just seems like a really down to earth, genuine guy. He seems like he works hard for the people that support him and he wants to be a role model. And you gotta give him credit in that sense. Like, I feel like in the same sense you said you teared up, I was watching that. I was just like, this is super powerful because, he's basically saying like, you can say whatever you want about me, but I'm just going to still be me and I'm going to be, best version of myself, kind of like a Bill Russell type mindset. And, I hope he's doing well now. It seems like he's been out of football for a couple of seasons or so, but just in general, I hope that I know he's married and I think he has a family, so like I hope his life has gotten back on the right track, and I think this documentary did like wonders for him as a person.
Yeah, no, he didn't just get married. He got married to like a fitness model, right, or something. So
yeah.
So I mean, how can you not love life? I feel like yeah, I think this goes to show it's like, hey, things didn't work out maybe to in the professional sense, or how we would define like as outliers success for this person, right? Yeah, sure, it would have been awesome if he was this generational talent, like the next Ray Lewis of some sort, and just kicked ass, enter the Hall of Fame and do all that. But yeah, this crappy thing just messed with his head, and his parents like definitely described that as like, yeah, he had major anxiety like when he was in his first couple years, and it just never really got out of it. Like he never played free, I think was what he said. So I think my biggest thing was like, it was definitely a what ifs, right? Like, what if this never happened? That's definitely one. What if he chose USC instead of Notre Dame, because he said he wanted to go to USC, but then this whole like some person told him that he trusted, like, hey, you ought to be the only Manti Te'o, or the only Polynesian basically in Notre Dame. And I guess that was a good idea, but then it was like, well, Notre Dame's a Catholic school and I'm a Mormon. there's like probably like 0.00 or 0.1% Polynesians in Indiana or whatever, where in USC there's a lot more. I know there's a lot more in the West Coast of people of Hawaii and Polynesian descent in the West Coast area, because it's closer to family and everything. A lot more people, players have gone of Polynesian descent have gone through the USC system, so there's definitely that lineage there. They also like recruited like Matt Barkley at the same time. I think they were the same year, so that would have been something if Matt Barkley on the offensive side, and then not the best, I guess, pro career, but had a pretty successful college career. I think he played all 4 years and everything. So yeah, that could have been something. I don't know if they would have had the same national championship prospects as maybe Notre Dame. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But we never would have known all that. So that, yeah, definitely a game of what ifs and all. But in the end, like he's made his money in the NFL. I don't know what he's doing exactly right now. But hey, has a wife, kids, seems he's doing pretty well, mentally and at a good space. So, you can't knock on that, especially right now. So,
Yeah, I don't have a ton of other takeaways. I mean, just kind of like the Ronaya aspect of the whole documentary is just like the darkest, most evil person. Even today, I think that person is seriously a sociopath. I mean, it's just like kind of the route she took to, come out, and it was Ronaya was a male and now identifies as female. But going through kind of cousins and friend networks and stuff to like build a new profile, to like befriend different people in circles that she's aware of in real life, and then kind of like just kind of tear people apart in the process. And like she's going on this line of like building emotions for him, being like so deep in the tunnel vision, but I mean honestly just comes off as like a very manipulative, it was really insecure type of person to like completely kind of control somebody in that sense. And especially when you're using a fake alias and like, it's just, yeah, man, I catfishing wasn't really a thing that I think we all were thinking about when we were in college around that time. So it's like, maybe I got to give him a little bit more credit on that sense too. Like, where he went with it was a little different than maybe most of us would, but in the same sense, I feel like catfishing has become more of like a socially, more normal, or I don't want to call it acceptable, but it's just more prevalent today than it maybe was when Facebook got started. But in any sense, the ups and downs of that doc, I mean, I haven't gone through something like that with a sports doc in a very long time.
Yeah, no, as a doc, like it is funny how it's a 2-part series, but it's just 2 hours really, and it's like, oh, I feel like that's the Netflix way of just like oh yeah, I wouldn't want to watch like a 6-hour movie or anything like that, but I'll watch 6 episodes, 1 hour each of a docuseries, right? So, but no, yeah, it was really well done. Like they really captured, I think, all the elements. I was surprised that they got Naya. Like, how did they,
Yeah.
she agreed to it. So I was really surprised that they were able to do that and get like really all the major players involved, including some of the coaches, people from Notre Dame, his family, basically every essential person, people from Deadspin. So, kudos to the producers for being able to get everybody involved and get the word out there of, their version, their tale of the story of that is this whole Manti Te'o's catfishing scandal. So, yeah. So, but yeah, I guess speaking of some other, sports documentaries out there, Derek Jeter launched his, was it maybe a couple months ago now, but I think it just kind of finished off this past week, I believe. So, yeah, would love to hear, Pat, your initial thoughts of like this docuseries that Derek Jeter had. What did you think? Did you learn anything or any insightful, fun stuff that you may have gone from it?
Yeah, I loved it. It brought me right back into 90s baseball, which is like one of my favorite eras of baseball. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to buy the World Series tapes on VHS, and I would just go like 1990, and I had every single one for the decade, but we like go back and watch them and kind of the, just the narrator talking about the teams and the players on those teams. So like just going through, Derek Jeter in the 90s, I mean, it just kind of like brought me right back to childhood when you think 96, 7, 8, or I should say 96, 98, 99, 2000, 97 was the Florida Marlins. But I will say the documentary outside of baseball does a really good job at, putting us back into Derek Jeter's shoes when he was a kid growing up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, being biracial in that time, in that area, kind of the things he had to deal with as a kid and kind of how his dad, pushed him to, work his butt off, sign a contract that says, I'm going to do this, and that. Here's all my goals. I'm going to, included accolades, but also, education, behavior, other things to kind of say, you need to work for everything you have. His dad would never allow him to beat him in any sort of game or any activity growing up. So I think that just taught him, if you beat me, you've earned it. And that'll push you to, work harder and get better at what your craft is. But outside of that, I just think that both of Jeter's parents just did a really great job at, instilling confidence in him, making sure that he was aware of his social situation, that he was guarded in a lot of ways just growing up. And I mean, the way he operates, I feel like I have a lot I could really relate to him and how he goes about making friends, establishing networks. What happens if somebody breaks that trust, or what happens if, a guy like A-Rod happens to say like he doesn't think that Jeter's, really a leader, not really a great player, this and that, but they're also, best friends in real life. So it's like, where do you go with that relationship, that friendship? And, I think that Jeter always did a good job of just ignoring, people that he doesn't think like added any sort of added value, benefits, or would treat him, in a way that was, built on trust and built on respect. And, appreciated Jeter, finally speaking for himself too. I mean, I feel like, what we learned from the documentary is always kind of guarded when it came to the press, especially in New York. So you didn't really know who he was like throughout his career. I mean, I always felt like I knew, the guy he was on the field, and like, maybe that was part of his aura. It's just like, that's all you got, kind of like a Tim Duncan experience. It was just like, he's just gonna win championships and play, at an elite level. And that's pretty much, that was Derek Jeter. And, with the A-Rod situation, A-Rod, if you didn't know about it, decided to maybe like critique his leadership at that time, or, try to establish himself as being the best player and kind of, making that known on paper. And it kind of just led to a lot of A-Rod's own insecurities. So Jeter was just like, didn't really say much about it. It was just kind of like, all right, man, I thought we were best buds, but I really can't trust you. So just learned a lot about, Jeter's personality in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think I liked it really kind of just shows like his intellect here with, he knew how to play the press game. He knew how to play the New York press game, what to say exactly, how to construct, the proper, framing around a story. And then, yeah, he was like, to hell with it. I'm just going to start my own company, get players' words out there, in a way, kind of is like a big FU to the press. Although the press kind of like, there's always that debate of like, is he really that good? Is he really not that good or whatever? I mean, sure, his defense might've been sketchy, but the guy's like 5th all time in hits. So he's pretty damn good. Right. So, but yeah, like it really just shows like how, his intellect in the PR and press game and how to navigate those things. I think that's definitely great for, as a leader, is being able to communicate at least, with external forces as well as internal forces, right? He was able to communicate with his teammates. A lot of his teammates loved him. He's got his homeboys, Posada, Pettit, Gerald Williams, his, late friend and everything. So yeah, he was definitely well liked within the clubhouse, as well as management liked him. And then, having the press on his side too. So really knew how to play the game in that sense. And yeah, started his own company just to get stories told about players. And then, now we see that like that's kind of where the trend is now with, podcasts and the new media that I think Draymond Green likes to call it. So like where the players are the ones creating their own narratives, talking about things, writing articles, or using social media, Instagram or TikTok or YouTube to get their ideas and their thoughts on certain things that are happening out in the world. So it really Jeter in a sense was ahead of his time. I think I remember the first time when he announced the Players Tribune, I'm like, I don't know about this thing. Is this thing gonna take off? But here we are, and it's killing it. So yeah, definitely like that. I liked how it definitely portrayed him more as like a family man a little bit. I liked how I think that's one contrast in how it differentiated from the Jordan docuseries that we can definitely talk about that a little bit later, but that really showcased like his relationship with Hannah, his wife. It was pretty funny that, and I don't know if this was like all a setup, but like all his family and friends were like, they're kind of the same person. Like they have to deal with the limelight in order to like, it's part of their job, but they don't necessarily like it or enjoy it, or they're not necessarily gravitated towards, being all showy and everything. So I liked how they brought about that, and then about, kids and family. So, and I think somebody said it like on when they I think maybe in the last episode, it was like, yeah, Derek kind of lived like, as a guy, like, as good of a life as at least right now as he can. He's not even 50, right? So definitely a lot to admire in that sense, and kind of how he orchestrated his career in a way and was able to turn it into another career as, a owner of the Players Tribune, and then also a short-lived CEO of the Marlins, or partial owner of the Marlins. So we'll see what happens if he does get back into an ownership group again. I know the Angels are back on sale again, so maybe there's something there. But yeah, it's hard to beat his career with that.
Yeah. And I think he did a great job with the Miami Marlins while he was there. I mean, it felt like they were heading in the right direction. We didn't really get the full scoop. Maybe that's just Jeter being Jeter and just like not wanting to get into any sort of issues with ownership that's currently there, like what the separation was really all about. But it just kind of seemed like it was in conflict with winning baseball games. And that's what, got him this documentary, was because he won baseball games, he won championships. And the reason why he did that was because he was a great leader. He really brought guys together. He got rid of distractions. Like, if any of these current players in any sport just want to understand what it takes, I mean, just seriously watch that doc, maybe watch the Jordan one, if Tim Duncan happens to make one, watch that one as well. It's, Brady has his own doc. It's kind of like you start looking at who these docs are made after, and it's like, they're not made after guys who, had the most points in their career, or, were the faces of Adidas for a time. It's like, really it's just about, doing what you can for the team in order to get you over the hump, and, kind of always be, leading by example. And I just feel like that's what made Jeter great. And, everybody's going to argue about his like ranking in, the all-time greats of baseball and stuff. And some people look at his stats or whatever else and say like, okay, he's not an all-time great or whatever, but it's just like, you got to be kidding yourself because, literally, I think you even said it, like, what is he, 5th all-time in career hits? And, he's got 5 championships. Like he didn't ride any coattails for those. Like he was hitting home runs in those World Series games. He was batting over 300, getting on base, nearly at a 400, OBP type clip. It's like, this guy earned everything that he got. And, he's the face of New York for that whole period of time. And, he's beloved in that city and with that team. And that's the best team on the planet for any sport. So, yeah, I mean, truly enjoyed it. Thought they did a good job of just hitting all the high points. It ended at the right time as well. And, really enjoyed that one. I wanted to get your take, because we watched the Jeter one recently. And I think both of us watched, the Jordan Bulls documentary series, as well as Tom Brady's. Where do you think that stacks up among those two? And do you have any thoughts on the other two as well?
Yeah, no. I mean, the Jordan one, like it won some awards, I believe, and it kind of set the precedent for all this. It definitely also hit at the perfect time, at the beginning of the pandemic and everything, right? Where everybody's like, they got nothing else to do, so let's just watch this Michael Jordan docuseries that's rolling out. And I think ever since then, it's kind of just snowballed into, we got to do a docuseries for Tom Brady, or yeah, we got to do one for Derek Jeter now and everything. So, and there's probably going to be more athletes down the road for that now. So, I think it makes sense to do it though. But I don't know, in terms of ranking, like, yeah, definitely Jordan's got to be number one. I mean, from the ones we talked about, the Manti Te'o one, in terms of just the sheer awesomeness of it, that would definitely be there. But I guess amongst those players, if it's Jordan versus Jeter versus Tom Brady, oh man, I would say for me at least, I would put Jordan first, and then The Last Dance, and then I would probably put. I kind of like I was almost said Tom Brady. I kind of like the Derek Jeter one first, and then the Tom Brady one. Actually, I think, for my opinion, it was definitely it touched some like different stories. It just felt a lot more interesting in that sense. Not to say that Tom Brady's life is not interesting; it definitely is. But I definitely think that Jeter's docuseries touched on a number of different bases. No pun intended. Outside of sports, that really went into his life a little bit more in detail, talking about the biracialness, diversity, as well as coming from Kalamazoo, and then having his friend pass away, Gerald Williams, and relationships as well. So really liked how it dived really deep into all those things a little bit more from that sense. And then I guess a close second or a close third would be the Tom Brady one. So, but yeah, what do you think?
I align with that ranking fully. I mean, I think the Bulls one was great because, I mean, obviously we were a little bit biased because we grew up in Chicago and we experienced those the second 3, I think clearly. The first 3, not as much so. And I think that background really like helped me out as a Bulls fan to understand like where did Jordan come from, where these teams come from, and how they really, establish that type of, winning culture, and to kind of get a sense of all the different personalities too. Like I know Jordan was doing a lot of monologues throughout it all, and kind of it was Jordan centric, but it also, he just brought in a cast of characters that we all recognize in that time period, like Phil Jackson and Dennis Rodman, and what Scotty's opinions were, and even Steve Kerr here and there. So I thought that was really, really well done. It did focus a lot on the actual games and winning, but I also thought it brought you into the locker room a little bit, and like, there were some good clips of just like some genuine camaraderie on that team that I thought was just fun to watch. Jeter's definitely second, just because, again, like you said, I mean, talking about life a lot throughout it all. It wasn't just, what he was doing on the field with the Yankees. It was really, what was happening in the mainstream media involving Jeter throughout his run with the Yanks. And then what was his life like, dealing with racism growing up, and what is it like now, being a family man, repairing some relationships that, have maybe gone awry. I don't really think he ever committed to like being friends with A-Rod. I think that was all for show, but I think he's like, yeah, I don't really want to be his friend. But the other one is Brady. So I had a hard time with this one because really I didn't feel like I got to know Tom Brady any better watching it. And, I know they covered him at Michigan and, they did have parts with Giselle involved in it, but maybe it's just not as relatable. Like maybe it's because Tom Brady just doesn't seem as relatable as like a Derek Jeter does to me. Like he's like, he's married to like mega rich supermodel. And, it's just like, I think one thing, and this is like going to play on race a little bit, but I do think there is something to appreciate or be inspired about when you watch somebody come from like literally nothing to becoming something. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady was like a little rich kid, but I think a clear path for him to be successful was a little bit paved easier for him in that sense. I mean, not to say that he's not the greatest football player to me that I've ever seen. Like that guy's nobody's worked. He's the Derek Jeter of football. I mean, nobody's worked harder for what they've gotten than Tom Brady. So I respect him as an athlete, but I think that there is something missing in the sense of like when I watched the Brady one, I was like, this just looks like a Super Bowl highlight tape. It doesn't feel like I'm really getting to know you better. Or like I like you any more than I did. And I do like Tom Brady. It's just the doc didn't do as much for me as the others did.
Yeah, and when you compare the three, right, in terms of I guess story, right? Like the biggest thing for Tom Brady was that he was a 6th-round pick. Like that's pretty much it. Was doubted, and coming out of high school was like 5th on the depth chart or whatever at Michigan, and worked his way up. So there's definitely some aspect of like, okay, struggle, right, or conflict. The rest though, it's like, okay, he started kicking ass fairly early in his career. Won a Super Bowl his 2nd year with the New England Patriots. But after that, it was pretty much streamlined. Like you kind of just like, oh, he just won a bunch of games, won a bunch of Super Bowls, won some here, lost some here. Okay. But other than that, yeah, not too much other things with regards to, I guess, his life or any type of controversy or any type of struggle apart from, kind of what happened early on in his career. So, and now 20 some odd years later, it's a different story. Like he's the GOAT and he's still playing too. I think that's the big thing. So, it's like, all right, he's still playing. I think we both picked his team to win the Super Bowl. So we're like, okay, where's the conflict? I think that's kind of the thing we're struggling with to, I guess relate or sense of like, okay, we're gonna cheer for you because you're fighting against something, right? Jeter, even though he's like a first ballot Hall of Famer, 5th in hitting, like still battling, like, oh, he's an overrated player and everything. Okay, so like things like that. I guess parts of us can like sense some sort of struggle. Maybe there's like one for I guess Tom Brady just being old, but he's really just been like been very takes care of his body and all, which great. You eat a bunch of kale. That's it's hard to grasp exactly kind of I guess what that all entails. So maybe there's a little bit of disconnect there, but I don't know. I definitely like the Jordan and Jeter one for sure though.
I mean, you see Jeter dive headfirst into the stands and come out with a bloody eye, and then what do you see? Tom Brady get touched by a defensive end, and the 15-yard penalty flag goes up. It's like it gets kind of hard to like feel bad for the guy when he's standing in a pocket. He's got world-class trainer, world-class cook probably at home, just keeping his body nice and healthy to throw darts. Like I don't know. Yeah, it's the game's a little different.
Yeah. Well, he gets hurt for a year, right? And then what happens? They completely change the rules in favor of the quarterback, and now he's playing, his mid-40s now. So it's like, okay, the entire league is basically, really just subjugated itself to quarterbacks now. Like partially towards because of that whole Brady injury way back then. So. At least we started to see more of the rules like going towards like not hitting the quarterback late, and then referees just calling like, whoa, is that really a late hit type of thing? So there's a lot towards, I guess, with regards to how Brady got treated from other people and us or whatever versus how Jeter got treated in that sense. And then obviously Jordan's story is just really interesting and fascinating with all the parties involved there. So yeah. But
Well, outside of those documentary series, I think the one that we're keeping up with right now is this Lakers one, kind of bringing us back to Showtime era, talking probably from 1979 on with the Lakers and the Bus family. But what have you thought so far of that one, Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay right now, I guess. I think for me at least, there's actually, I don't want to say it's like a more interesting one, even though it's a dramatization. I think it's actually on was it Showtime or HBO? I remember watching it, and I found that that one a little bit more interesting actually. Yeah, there's this Winning Time, the rise of the Lakers dynasty. It's a TV show. So far, it's only been 3 episodes into the actual Laker documentary. It's on HBO. But yeah, like that one actually has John C. Reilly from our alma mater, DePaul. Shout out to the Blue Demons, as well as Adrian Brody, Jason Clark, some familiar faces and names out there. Definitely a dramatization, but I've gotten some insights that I've already picked up from the actual the actual docuseries that's airing right now. It's just in a lot more entertaining way. So I haven't gotten too much from it, and it's like, okay, it's nice to get to hear from Jeannie Buss. Maybe it's just one of those, the timing might have been a little bit off with regards to having this HBO series to having this actual docu-series with the actual Laker family basically all involved there. So maybe there's a part of the timing that I have just a hard time getting interested into this docu-series. But so far, not too impressed at the moment. But who knows? Maybe there's something that'll come about, especially once it hits the Kobe years. So, but yeah, what do you think?
I'm watching it, but I'm not into it. I have to give it a little bit more time, but I'm still watching. So I'm being patient. I think, like I said, for Brady, it's just one of those situations where it's hard for me to be inspired by, this rich real estate mogul talking about his struggles, owning a team and going on millions of dates with models and stuff and keeping a weird scrapbook. And then it's ultimately going to play out into this whole Bus family fiasco. It kind of sounds like a Succession type, comparison they're probably going to draw in this documentary series and how they produced it. But I don't know, man. Like I said, it's just with sports docs, you want to feel uplifted. You want to feel completely invested in these teams and players and their backstories and stuff. But it's just to get the perspective of the rich owner who's I don't know, who's having to make the tough decision of giving Magic Johnson $25 million. It's it's kind of goofy, and I don't know. I guess I'll see where it goes. I'm not going to judge it before I finished it, but yeah, I'll keep up with it for now. But at the very least, it's helpful to understand what was going on with that organization in the 80s, because we get products like Pat Riley, who now runs the Miami Heat and has had just a tremendous amount of success for himself. So understand, where did Pat Riley come from? What's his backstory? And, how did Magic Johnson gel with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I don't know this stuff. I mean, I'm aware of it, but it's it's now good to get that perspective, even if I don't think the Bus story is all that interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely kudos to all that. And yeah, besides the whole sex scandals and all that fun stuff for the Lakers, I think one thing, maybe it doesn't get discussed as much is this whole Jerry West thing when, he was, I guess, the coach and then became the GM. And then it was he's kind of the coach, but not really. I found that whole thing pretty interesting. And yeah, now Jerry West is seen as the smartest NBA executive ever, setting up these teams, laid the groundwork for, the Lakers and where they were for the Kobe and Shaq years, and then laying the work for the Grizzlies when they were making those runs to the playoffs, coming from nothing. And then also, now he's, I think he's a consultant for the Clippers, I believe. So really interesting to see his career arc going from, this coach to more of a GM and kind of a backroom executive, and just being really smart in that sense. it's funny that in that HBO series I was talking about before, he's like this, alcoholic womanizer type of like person who just hates everything. And like Jerry West in real life is like, I'm like nothing like that. Like that's like a terrible representation. So definitely go watch the HBO version. I think that's definitely the more entertaining, at least, or whatever, through all these things. But definitely not as into it as I guess the other ones at the moment. So yeah,
for sure. Well, sticking on NBA, moving off of documentary series, our boy Dennis Rodman, who actually was in the Jordan documentary, he was a pretty big character in that documentary series. But I guess Dennis Rodman's on his way to Russia to free Brittney Griner. What do you make of this whole situation?
I think somebody has to put Dennis Rodman as the new Secretary of State, right? Like that would be amazing. Like he's good. He has good relations in North Korea, apparently. Apparently has good relations in Russia. Who do we have problems with? Both those countries at the moment. So, this guy's got to like, they have to have the next documentary go for Dennis Rodman. I feel like he's got the most interesting life. Apparently, he's like lived the most interesting man type of life, right? Like, married Carmen Electra, had, I guess, sexcapades with Madonna or whatever, like, and then won NBA championships with Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls, and like all these crazy things. And then what's he doing on his retirement off days? Like, diplomacy, like, it's just nuts and crazy. But if he's able to get Brittney Griner back home from Russia, that would be just nuts. And he ought to get like the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and that would be the most hysterical thing by far. So, yeah.
I mean, no diplomat has ever come out of the Department of State that's as effective or, risk-taking as Dennis Rodman. I feel like, however he's able to conjure up relationships with these people, like, I'm sure it's very baseless. I mean, I'm sure it's like, hey, I remember you from the Bulls and your crazy color, hair that you'd like kind of roll out every single week. Like you have a new style all the time. And yeah, I do remember you. You were quite the character, and maybe I'll be more popular if I associate myself with you. I feel like that's definitely where like Kim Jong Un was coming from, and Kim Jong Il. I think like just in terms of their association with Dennis and like their fandom of him. But this whole Putin thing, like who knows? Like, I mean, maybe he's a basketball fan. Like, I don't know if that's been confirmed, but I'm sure he like probably gets off on Dennis Rodman coming out to personally talk to him to free Brittney. I don't know what it's gonna do. Like, I don't know. I haven't read up enough on this situation to be like, yeah, that's the silver bullet that's gonna get her out of jail. But it's worth a shot. I mean, I think like it's worth a shot. Hopefully, he comes back okay, like he has from North Korea. Hopefully. He's bringing Brittney with him. But yeah, that whole situation, at least the last time I heard, it was turning into an arms dealer for Griner in this trade package. And I'm not sure it's been accepted, but we need to wrap this up, that whole situation specifically, and just kind of end some of this nonsense.
Yeah, and if it takes Dennis Rodman to get that rebound of getting Brittney Griner back, like, hey, what's the worst that can happen? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I was funny. I was like he got approval, I think was the key thing. Like, who approved it? Who was like, this is a good idea. Let's do this. Like, I mean, hey, granted, he's got on his resume, diplomatic relations to North Korea, so that's better than a lot of people, I guess. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. But this guy is living the most interesting life, man, by far. So
yeah. No, that Department of State should definitely ring him up and give him a title as soon as possible. I think he'd be great for this administration.
Yeah, for sure. But and then I know I guess switching to baseball, there's this news, fresh news with Fernando Tatis Jr., the former White Sox prospect way back then for Jake Peavy, right? But got suspended for 80 games for some, I guess, banned substances or PEDs. Pat, want to hear what are your thoughts on Fernando Tatis, about the suspension, about everything, kind of what he's been going through right now, and how does this, you think, affect the Padres?
What a bummer for the Padres. I mean, as a baseball club, because you're sitting dead in the middle of a playoff hunt here. You've got good positioning in the playoffs. Probably won't win the division, but knowing that Fernando Tatis is on his way, possibly at the end of this month or maybe into September, and what a boost it would have gave that team with Machado and the newly acquired Juan Soto. They've got a really nice starting pitching staff, some other really good hitters too. It's just like, I feel terrible for those players, for their manager, for their GM. That unfortunately, the guy you extended for 13 years at $300+ million has just decided to make a really selfish decision and put himself out for the next 80 games. So that'll take effect. It already did, and it'll bleed into next year too. So it just definitely sucks for all of them. And it was nice to hear guys like Mike Clevenger, Joe Musgrove, even AJ Preller, the GM, kind of speak out about his lack of maturity and his lack of awareness and just respect for them as players and people inside that organization, because flat out this guy cheated. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. His dad, Fernando Tatis Sr., played in the majors for over 15 seasons. He was actually rumored to have taken some sort of PEDs back in his time. He never got caught on any sort of list, so I don't want to put that out there as any sort of fake news or anything like that. But just in general, if you've got a dad who played in the major leagues, you should know firsthand all of the issues that could come around any sort of substances you're putting in your body, number one. Number two, every single baseball club has a medical staff, a training staff that prescribe drugs to these players, whether it's pain relievers, any sort of prescription drugs that they may have to take. That all goes through the team, and that gets approved through the team, and every player knows that. And Fernando knows that better than any other player because his dad played in the pros too, and his dad knows that too. And the problem is when it comes down to contracts, the CBA protects players who take steroids from having any sort of other provisions that would allow their contract to be voided or allow them to receive more monetary fines or games outside of what the MLB establishes. And that's been a players association priority for a long time, because they don't want to say, hey, we don't want to give MLB the authority to run a false test and then damage the image or career of a player that gets a false test or something like that. So there's been all sorts of pushback from the players over time about the penalties for steroids and what happens. So if you look at this kid, he's already got his money. It's in the bag. He has nothing to lose, and he's actually playing on his rookie deal right now. His mass extension doesn't even start until after his rookie deal is complete. So he only loses $6 million in this whole thing when he's making $300+ million over the life of his contract. I mean, it's a la Deshaun Watson with getting 200 guaranteed and having to pay a $5 million fine for harassing 25+ women. So it's just like, I don't know. I have zero sympathy for this guy. He said he took Clostebol, for some ringworm that he had. And then his dad came out and said that he had some sort of hair, at the top of his head type itch that he was trying to relieve. So like, family, get your story straight. Like, communicate with one another, because I mean, you're the only people that can back each other up, and even you guys don't have your stories straight. He's coming out today, real somber type expression. He's apologizing to his country. It's just like this, it's like, let me go barf for a second in a bucket and come back and I'll listen to the rest of your speech. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this guy also kicked off his year by getting in a couple of motorcycle accidents. One that he actually, broke his wrist through, and then another one that he had to he had to remind himself which motorcycle accident when he was asked by Preller about the accident preseason. So it was like, this guy's gotten multiple motorcycle accidents after signing this mass extension. I mean, he shows absolutely no sign of being a leader. I'd be so nervous about the next 12 years with this guy. I mean, I legitimately would just seriously go into this offseason putting out feelers to the entire league and just seeing what the offers are. And I might just take the best offer, because I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but he's kind of a loose cannon. He comes off as very selfish, very immature, and at the end of the day, you got to be worried about stuff like this happening over the course of time. And you also got to evaluate, like, what will his performance be like if he's always been on some sort of PEDs and he just never got caught? Like, what kind of player is he for real? Like, we don't really know if this has always been a part of his his makeup. So those are my thoughts. Wayne, would love to hear what you think.
I mean, you touched base on a lot of, I guess, my thoughts there, but yeah, was it 14-year, $340 million is the contract. Like, hire a chauffeur. You don't need to be doing motorcycles. Like, have a list or work with your actual team doctors, or have somebody that is in conjuncture with everything that's happening in terms of banned substances. Like, these are things that you do as a highly paid professional in any job that you're doing, whether you're the best paid janitor in the world versus one of the highest paid Major League Baseball players in the world too. So that's what you sign up for if you are a professional player and playing at a high level and getting the money. So it's just one of those things. So I think it's just he's young. I think this is a reason why a lot of teams normally don't give these large contracts to just young, either NBA or MLB talents. Why there is like those rookie deals and such. You look at people like with Jay Williams early in his career getting that motorcycle accident, and he's even admitted, like, yeah, man, I was just immature, like, going through life. I thought I was indestructible. Maybe Tatis is going through that same kind of ordeal. So, and hey, look, I get you're young, and I wouldn't know what I would do if I was 23 and going to be $340 million richer and everything. So it is definitely hard to say, like, oh, I would definitely act differently. Maybe I would go the Derek Jeter route, right? Just be like a guy that's very methodical about what he says and how he acts. Easier said than done, right? So with all that being said, yeah, he's just kind of deserving what's I guess coming his way. Yeah, he's not going to be with the Padres until next year. So it is a good thing that they did load up on Soto, who has 3 years, I think, on his contracts to the remainder of this year and 2 other years. So we'll eventually see 2 years of Soto and Tatis. Granted, nobody gets traded or anything like that. So yeah, I guess there is some prospects, but it definitely hurts the prospects of Tatis or the Padres winning a World Series this year. Not to say, I think Kim is the shortstop is terrible. He's actually has some pretty decent numbers, but he's nowhere on that Tatis level. So it's hard. It's bad for the Padres. Who knows? Maybe he does have a come to Jesus moment, and gets a chauffeur and coordinates his training staff on substances he can use, and this is a moment for him to kind of recollect or get his life together with regards to all those things that I guess we discussed. So, but if that's not the case, then it's kind of like the whole Kyler Murray thing with was it they had a clause in his contract to watch film, apparently. Maybe now it's like it ought to be some sort of a thing for maybe it is going to be more of a thing on clauses like that for a lot of these younger professional athletes if they are 23 years old and getting 14 year-long contracts. So but yeah, overall it's just not good, not good for anybody, I think, what's occurred. So
yeah, and it hurts the game. I mean, it hurts Major League Baseball and their PR and their fans' perception, because again, we're just coming off of the Houston Astros cheating scandal, among the Boston Red Sox cheating scandal, among rumors of a Yankees scandal as well during that time period. We've gone through the steroid era, and this is your most marketable player next to Shohei Ohtani, next to possibly Mike Trout. I mean, it's like this guy's on all the commercials, is on a absolute run right now. Cardinals have won 8 straight. Pujols has had, I think you said it, Wayne, 7 home runs in the last week or so. Just on an absolute tear. What do you make of his whole performance lately, and what he's doing for the Cardinals at his age?
Yeah, he should have never left the Cardinals. I feel like his career I feel like would have turned out so much better maybe because he left I think when he was like 32, like went to was the Angels I believe. So yeah, like man, I love it. I love it. Like this is his last year. This is his last hurrah. He's leaving it all out there on the field. I think he's probably trying to. He's like, man, I want to get to 700 home runs, right? I think A-Rod's ahead of him at like 696 or something. So I love that he's able to. Yeah, he's 3 behind Alex Rodriguez here. Right now, he's 5th all time in homers. So, but yeah, just won honors for NL Player of the Week with 7 homers in the last 12 days. And his OPS is the highest it's been since he was with the Cardinals last, actually in 2011. So it's like, wow, what a year he's having. I love it. 42 years old last year, one of the best hitters baseball has ever seen. If you remember him, like when he was in his 20s in the Cardinals, he was unstoppable. For any of the young bucks listening here, so like most feared batter. He had a quick bat and then powerful swing all at once, and had one of the best rookie seasons as well. So again, love Albert, love what he's been able to do with the game. Class act from as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's really been any type of controversies really surrounding him. But World Series winner, definitely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So love what I'm seeing out of Pujols. It's kind of the contrast, I think, at least right now with this whole Tatis situation, right? So where he was definitely loyal to the Cardinals up until I think his last years with them. Just I think he just wanted to get a little bit more money and see a little bit more sunshine, live on the coast a little bit, live life a little bit. So can't knock a guy for that. So, but yeah, love Albert. Wish him a nice retirement. Who knows what happens in the postseason? That would be something. I think we talked about how the Cardinals have a couple of the best players in WAR, right? With Arenado and Goldschmidt. So great that they are achieving a lot this season. And yeah, the Cardinals are a great organization, just one of the best baseball organizations. So really awesome that they're able to have someone like Albert finish his career off with them. So, but yeah, what are your thoughts, Pat, on this whole Pujols resurgence?
It's cool. It's cool, especially at 42 years old. Hopefully, I know it's kind of making references to PED. That's not anything that he's been, I think, on paper as being found to have in his system. Hopefully that has nothing to do with this, because that would be an absolute tragedy. But I won't go there. I'll enjoy this run. Really cool to see a guy his age go out there hitting a ton of home runs, putting a team into the playoffs pretty much on his back. And, his numbers play for an everyday major league player at his age. Like, it's not just that he has this run of home runs. He's been 277 with a 350 OBP, like you said, highest OPS since 2011. Just thinking back to Albert, like coming up and just being a man, like immediately, off the bat, 130 RBIs, 7 home runs. It's just like at 21. And then even in those days, he was playing left field, right field, third base, first base. It was like, this guy could do it all. And I just was kind of in awe of like, where's this guy come from? Like, who is he? Like, how is this possible? Just a kind of an A-Rod type start to his career in a lot of ways, Ken Griffey Jr. even. So yeah, Pujols will definitely go down as one of the best hitters, especially right-hand hitters of all time. Just a flat out rake, controlled the, strike zone, just put up numbers year after year. And like you said, great leader. Him and Yachty together was always kind of like the brotherhood. Even when he was, visiting as an Angel, they'd always like stop the game to have him tip his cap, and he would hug Yachty and stuff and be crying and everything like that. It's like when you play baseball in St. Louis, it's like, it's a culture, it's like, it's cool in that sense. Like I've been to St. Louis. I'm sure you have, Wayne. Like, I don't think it's that cool. Like St. Louis is like real forgettable to me, and no offense to anybody in St. Louis, but like, they'll definitely take offense to that. But I just think it's like one of those towns where it's like, if you're from there, you're a Cardinals like diehard, and like that is life. And then, you know, you go to any other major city that has a baseball team, like maybe outside of New York when you're in the Bronx or something, but like really there aren't a lot of cultures like that. I mean, the Cubs, you know, I don't obviously love the Cubs, but they have a really, you know, united culture in that sense. I feel like it is life for some people that go to those games. But anyways, he's going to cap off a great career. Hopefully he gets to 700 just for the fun of it. Could he pass the Babe? I don't know. I mean, it would take like a absolutely historic run here in this. You'd have to do like a Sammy Sosa, you know, 20 homer month in September or something like that. But no, I mean, it's cool. And he's becoming fantasy relevant, which is just insane at his age too. So he's like popping up as like the top player to pick up. And I'm just so hesitant because he's 42 years old and a DH and has been washed prior to these years. But you know, good for Albert, man. Like if he wins the World Series on his way out, I mean, again, we're talking new documentary series that we probably, you know, will fire up, and he'll probably have a documentary series at some point soon.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, yeah, you look at his career stats and everything. Like, how do you not appreciate this guy or call him one of the best players of all time and everything? Yeah, he didn't have like the best, I guess, overall. Like, I think his batting average went down when he went to California. But apart from that, you know, his power, I think, kind of stabilized somewhat there. So, but yeah, you know, hard to knock on him for going to sunnier weather, especially after making your money, bringing a World Series to the Cardinals. You can't fault him for that. A couple, you know, I think he had like 3 MVPs as well. So when he was the Cardinals, so you know, yeah, he deserved to get a little bit sunnier and everything. And yeah, he's you know, supporter of Down syndrome. I think he has a daughter with Down syndrome, so it's like, you know, this guy's an angel and everything. Although I think his like nickname's the Machine, right? So yeah, love me some Albert. So, but yeah, wish him the good rest of the season, and yeah, happy retirement, man. Enjoy life.
For sure. You know, with that, I think that kind of is a wrap on our episode for today. Wayne, do you have any last thoughts about any of the topics or sports overall right now?
Not too much on sports, but you know, there's a lot of, I guess, controversy over the Finnish prime minister. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but apparently there's like some videos of her dancing, and you know, she's a nice looking prime minister, I'll say. But I'm like, you know, if she gets the job done, good for her. She can dance, like it's totally fine. But anyways, that's my closing thoughts on you know, maybe we'll send Dennis Rodman over there to, you know, stabilize things. I don't know, but yeah, there's a lot worse things for a prime minister to do than dance. So yeah,
I'm with you. Let her dance. Let her do her thing. Let's not judge. You know, people are judging Manti Te'o until he put together this great documentary series. So everybody deserves a second chance or a chance to be themselves. I actually had only one other parting thought. Wendy's is going big on breakfast right now and decided to launch these French toast sticks. I mean, they looked pretty damn good from the commercials. I don't know if you checked this out at all. But I did need to know, Wayne, I've never asked you, what is your favorite fast food restaurant? And would you ever get down with some Wendy's breakfast?
I would definitely get down for Wendy's breakfast. I live close to McDonald's though, but like not close to Wendy's. I don't like, is Popeyes considered fast food? Maybe
oh, dude, bit. I'm so on Popeyes. That's like seriously, that's my favorite. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, all right, cool. I'm glad you said. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. I just get excited.
I mean, that's it. I just said Popeyes is my favorite. Like that's no explanation other than, yeah, I love the biscuits. I love their style of chicken a little bit better than KFC. Again, I'm not gonna knock on KFC for that, but if there's like one on one corner, the other one on the other quarter, I'm gonna go to Popeyes 100%. So yeah,
it's the whole package, right? It's like when you go through that menu, like you're not gonna get anything. There's no bad choices. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get the mashed potatoes, or you're gonna get the new mac and cheese, or they're gonna bring these like really well seasoned fries, or you got a biscuit on the side, or 2 or 3. And then you have chicken in so many ways. You can get bone-in, you can get the tenders, you can get the fast food leading, chicken sandwich. I mean, it pretty much blew every other competitor out of the water that ever tried to make a chicken sandwich or has since that point. So, anyways, I saw those French toast sticks. They remind me of when I was a kid and grab them in these big bags in the grocery store. I was like, Damn, man, do I have to give Wendy's a second look? Like I'm not a big Wendy's dude, but I'm like, they're really pushing breakfast right now. Like, they're pulling out all the stops.
Wendy's Twitter too is like the best thing ever. They're just hysterical. Like, I don't know if they like hired like Dave Chappelle to do it, like some sort of person like is really good at jokes. But yeah, shout out to whoever's handling Wendy's social. They're doing an excellent job on just ripping everybody. So yeah.
And Reggie Bush, like, he lost his Heisman, but now he's like the face of Wendy's. So like, I don't know, Heisman, free
Face
Wendy's.
Wendy's, yeah. I'll take
I mean, give it to Reggie Bush, man. He's there early in the morning. He's being supportive of the morning crew there and getting his fix of biscuits. But I'm yet to try Wendy's breakfast, but I'm getting more and more tempted by each new commercial that I see from them. So cheers to Wendy's.
Cheers to Wendy's. Yeah. Now I'm hungry. So yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's make it a wrap here for the Ball and Breakfast podcast. We should probably grab some of that breakfast at some point to go along with the ball, but we'll catch you guys next time. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Give us a subscribe, a like, a follow, anything, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.